You might be on mute, Joe. We can't hear you. Yep.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Sure can.
Okay. So good morning. My name is Joe Dauscher. I'm the Network Relations Manager here at the Vermont Food Bank. One of the things that I do is I teach a ServSafe certification course to network partners of the Vermont Food Bank. That certification course is an 8-hour, all-day-long course, certification exam at the end, and then people that pass the test are certified for 5 years. This training, however, this is for food handler guide for food banking. This is a fairly new course. I've never taught it before. This is the first time I've been going to be doing this training, and the first time I'm doing a webinar as well. So I have Jen Messier here to help me with some of the technical aspects that I might be coming up against today. This course is, we certainly appreciate the work that the SASH coordinators do around the state, in helping us distribute fresh produce to folks in and around Vermont. One of Feeding America's guides is everybody that handles the food should have some sort of food safety training. Now, the other course that I talked about, that's training if you're preparing and cooking a meal and serving it to the public. This training is if you're receiving food and then again passing it out, distributing it. So this is a much more a much faster training than the all-day one, and as this goes on, you're probably going to say, "Oh, what does this have to do with what I do?" We get fresh produce and we're handing it out, and we're going to go into a lot more than that. But this is the training for that course. So let me begin. Let's see. Okay, now I'm having some trouble here with the. Oh. All right, I'm having a little bit of trouble here getting the slide to change. About here.
So, Joe, if you use your mouse and click on the actual PowerPoint.
Okay. So this is an overview. I think it's going to go a little bit quicker than this will today. So we went over this yesterday. And so this first chapter here is about food safety, the importance of food safety. And some of the things that we're going to learn is how food becomes unsafe, your role in keeping food safe, and understanding food allergies, and preventing food allergen contamination. So these are the three types of ways that food can become unsafe. These are the three types of contamination. There's biological, physical, and chemical. Biological is by far the most common form. And in this one, we're not going to go into too much depth in each one of these. I was amazed as I went through this book and the training, because in the other course, it goes into these in very much detail. But we're going to see what they think is important as a food handler. So people can make food unsafe but through poor personal hygiene. Here in this photo, you see somebody that is, coughing into their hands or sneezing, and then also eventually getting into the food that he's working with. And this is called transferring pathogens from your body to food. Pathogens, we talk of is actually bacteria. And there are some bacteria that are very essential for life, and helping us with digestion of food. However, there's also dangerous bacteria, and those are the ones that we call pathogens. And that's what we want to keep from getting into the food. Another way food can become unsafe is through cross-contamination. Here's always the great example is getting either blood from beef or juices from chicken onto lettuce. This lettuce is not going to be cooked, so it doesn't have the chance for those pathogens to be killed off. And then, of course, creating a great example for cross-contamination and bacterial contamination. Cross-contamination is transferring pathogens from one surface or food to another. Another way that food becomes unsafe is time temperature abuse. Here we see this this box here. It's hard for me to see what this is exactly. It looks like it's some kind of sausage links or so. They should be refrigerated. The longer that something is out of refrigeration, the longer it is, the greater the opportunity for pathogens to grow. So they need to be refrigerated at 41 degrees or lower. And so letting food stay out too long, again, is good growth, good for pathogen growth. Poor cleaning and sanitizing. If you are going to put food onto a surface that is not clean and sanitized, then again, there's that cross-contamination. Sanitizing, cleaning is removing food particles and washing. Sanitizing is reducing the number of pathogens to a safe. Okay, so here again, we're just going to go over some of the things that we learned. Leaving raw chicken breasts on a pallet in a loading area that is not refrigerated. Well, what does that fall under? And that would be A, time temperature abuse. Okay. All right, sneezing on food. Not only is it gross, but what is that caused by? That's poor personal hygiene. And keeping produce that raw meat juices have leaked on, okay, that's cross-contamination. And scraping food off an otherwise clean food storage container, that's poor cleaning and sanitizing. Just wiping something off doesn't get rid of the pathogens. They're still there, and now if you use that container for something else, those pathogens are there and will continue to grow. Right? Practicing good personal hygiene. And so it says, don't transfer pathogens from your body to food. And now we'll talk about a few ways here. And it says, how is good personal hygiene being practiced in the photo? Well, you see the gentleman there, he has a hairnet on. He has a beard net. Now, somebody said, what about if he had a mustache? Well, they have beard nets that it would just extend up over the lip to cover that hair. Single-use gloves are being used. He has clean clothing on and has a clean apron. Again, I look at this and I was like, wow, his arms are pretty hairy. What happens to the hair there? So that's something to take into consideration, but didn't mention anything about that here. And this one here, control time and temperature of food. What this person is using, they're using an infrared thermometer, checking the surface temperature of the product there in the box. And it's, again, don't let food stay out too long at temperatures that are good for pathogen growth. And how is the temperature being controlled in the photo? The temperature is being checked, one, and it ensures that the food is held at the correct temperature. Preventing cross-contamination. Now you'll notice here that the ground beef is on the bottom shelf in this cooler refrigerator with the fresh strawberries that are on top. This is important because you don't want to transfer the pathogens from one food to another. So if these were reversed, if the ground beef was on the top, there's the potential that one of those bags would leak. Some of the blood from the ground beef could get on the packages of strawberry. You know, those packages, they have different air holes in them. And strawberries are something that are usually not cooked. So you would be eating raw hamburger blood from, had you been eating the strawberries. And again, not wanting to transfer pathogens from one surface to another. And how is cross-contamination being prevented in this photo? Again, the ready-to-eat food stored above the raw food. All right, cleaning and sanitizing surfaces correctly. Keep everything clean, and then clean and sanitize anything that touches food. So scales, tables, work tables, any kind of utensils, forks, knives, spoons, anything that's going to come in contact with the food should be sanitized. And how has this been being correctly sanitized? It's being cleaned and sanitized in a 3-compartment sink. This would be the first compartment where the pan that's being used there is being washed. And so what are the most common food allergens? Here in this country, we have what we call the Big 8. These are some of the most common food allergens. Incidentally, I just learned that up in Canada, they actually now have 11. In addition to the 8 that are listed here, they've identified 3 others that are very potentially hazardous. These 8 allergens account for 90% of the allergens that people are allergic to in this country. There's roughly 15 million people that have food allergies. And so these most common food allergens are milk, eggs, soy, fish, tree nuts, peanuts, shellfish, and wheat. So those are the Big 8. In Canada, I mentioned that also now, and this is fairly new, that coconut is also considered an allergen, as is sesame, and then also sulfides, preservatives. They are also considered an allergen. But so far here, we still have the Big 8. And so we want to make sure that we don't we want to prevent cross contact between surfaces that have had an allergen on it and then something else. You might have seen on the ingredients on different labels about this product was manufactured in a kitchen that also manufactured things with nuts or tree nuts on there, because then that has the potential of microscopic elements of peanuts and tree nuts could have been included in the product that was made as well. And so here's what they say is to clean and sanitize surfaces that have come in contact with an allergen, inspect food packaging for leaks or spills that can cause cross contact, wash your hands and change gloves after handling allergens and before handling allergen-free food. Again, wanting to make sure that they are all kept separate. You also want to store allergens separately from allergen-free products, and do not store food containing allergens above allergen-free food. Here at the Vermont Food Bank, we label pallets that have allergens on them with a big red label, and we make sure that we have pallets that go up to the ceiling, and we want to make sure that none of the pallets that are there are no pallets that are underneath pallets that contain allergens, and so we use dedicated pallets and bins for products containing allergens. And so here we're going to apply the knowledge. Which of these food is a common allergen between these two? Well, that would be the cod, because fish is an allergen. Between meat and melons, wheat flour and melons, of course, that's the wheat flour. With peanut butter and crab legs, well, they're both allergens. Crab legs are shellfish, and peanuts, peanut butter is made from peanuts, which is one of the Big 8 allergens. Potatoes and mushrooms, neither one of those are allergens. Tomatoes and pecan or pecan pie, pecans are a tree nut, and that's an allergen. And then also citrus fruit and bell peppers. All right, neither one of those are allergens. Squash and eggplant, nope, no allergens here. And soybeans, rice and rice products. Well, soy is one of the Big 8 allergens, and so that's the one you'd select here. We also have eggs and ice cream. And yes, both of those are allergens. For most people, some people, they'll eat ice cream. They might eat cheese. It's made from milk. Some people say, I get, a little stuffed up when I eat that. But for some people, it's actually an allergen. They can actually go into anaphylactic shock from having ingested some of these things. So it's very important. Any questions so far? Okay, so one of the things that we want to do is to prevent coarse contact from spilled food. So immediately isolate the spilled food containing an allergen from other food products. And you also want to inspect the surrounding products for contact with the spilled food. You want to dispose of any open products in contact with the spilled food. And the food may not have to be discarded if it's still in the packaging, and that packaging can be safely cleaned and sanitized. You also want to clean and sanitize the area where the spill occurred. All right, good personal hygiene. And here you're going to want to how and when to wash your hands. Hand washing is one of the best ways of preventing bacteria from your body, pathogens from your body being transferred to food. Think of your hands as being utensils, like knives. You wouldn't, we'll get to that in a few minutes. And where to wash your hands and other care guidelines, what to wear, and other important practices. So how to wash your hands. Hands can transfer pathogens to food, so hand washing is a critical step in avoiding food contamination. It says how to wash your hands. Hand washing should take about 20 seconds. And one is to wet your hands and arms using water as hot as you can comfortably stand. The second is then to apply soap. Some people think to put on the soap first. No, because then the soap doesn't get all through your hands, and then when you would add the water, the soap's coming off. So you want to wet your hands first with hot water, apply soap and enough to build up a good lather, and scrub vigorously for 10 to 15 seconds. Clean under fingernails and between fingers. Now, if you've had some other food safety training, in ServSafe, that you'll know that even here in Vermont, that the Department of Health, it is actually you are supposed to wash and scrub your hands for 20 seconds. So that whole process takes a little bit longer. But for today's purposes in SafeSurf, we're going to talk about scrubbing them for 10 to 15 seconds. And then you want to rinse your hands thoroughly using warm water. You can dry your hands. You don't want to put them on your apron or any part of your clothing. You want to use a single-use paper towel or hand dryer. And then turn off the faucet with the paper towel, and then you can always open the restroom door with that paper towel as well. Because if you don't, then you're taking these hands that you've just cleaned, and you're touching an unclean surface. I'm always impressed when I go to a place and I notice that they put the waste receptacle right near the door. So once you open the door, you can easily throw it out. If that's not the case, just take it with you and throw it in a receptacle outside of the restroom or so. Okay, here's a gentleman that's just walking out of the restroom. Is hand washing required here? Yes. Yes, that is, and you always want to wash your hands after using the restroom. Would hand washing be required here? This woman here, she's taking her gloved hand. It looks like she's wiping some sweat on her forehead. Yes, that would be, you would then want to go and wash your hands. Anytime you touch your face, your hair, your body, you'll want to wash your hands. Hand washing now, holding, touching meat. Okay, yep, that's what you want to wash your hands there. And you always want to be washing your hands before and after handling raw meat, poultry, or seafood. Because you want to wash it before, because now you're doing a new task, and then once you're done, you want to wash your hands once you're finished. How about in this one? Just kind of like scratching her shoulder there. Yep, that's another time you're going to wash your hands, again, because you're touching your clothing or apron. This one, taking the garbage out. Yes, you want to wash your hands once you've done that. And then here, again, it looks like she's going to sneeze. All right, sneezing, you want to wash your hands after sneezing, coughing, or using a tissue. And now, is hand washing required? Why not? And then here is using a spray. That could be a sanitizer. Yep. Wash your hands after handling chemicals that could make food unsafe. So although this might be a cleaning chemical, you know, you don't want to have it on the food. You want to make sure that you don't have any on your hands and then transfer it to the food. After smoking a cigarette, yep, you want to wash your hands, because now you're putting your hands to your face, to your mouth. Some saliva can get onto your hands. Now, if you're going and making egg salad or putting together meatballs, yep, that saliva is now on the ground beef or the eggs. Chewing gum as well. You know, you want to wash your hands after chewing gum or even chewing tobacco as well, because now, again, this is more saliva that can be in and around your body, can get transferred to your hands, transferred to the food. Here, after eating, yep, after you've finished eating or drinking, you want to wash your hands. Is hand washing required with putting on gloves? Yes, you'll always wash your hands before putting on single-use gloves and at the start of a new task. So although gloves are a good barrier, you want to make sure that your hands are clean, washed and clean before you put them on. Again, working with any kind of chemical or cleaning agents. Yep, you want to wash your hands. Again, this can contaminate your hands. You don't want to, again, then spread that to food that you'd be working with. Now, this person here is leaving the work area. Would they wash their hands? Yes, and wash your hands after leaving and returning to the food handling area. You want to make sure that we'll go to the next one here, excuse me. So using hand antiseptics. Now you'll see this a lot, you know, a lot of different places they'll have these hand antiseptics around, hand sanitizers. You cannot use them instead of hand washing. You have to wash your hands and then apply the antiseptic. And you want to wait for it to dry before touching food or equipment or putting on your gloves. And then the last bullet point there, it says always follow the manufacturer's directions on it. It might tell you how long it takes to dry. Again, that's always, it's not required. You could wash your hands and put on the gloves. However, if you do want to put on hand antiseptic, you always put it on after you wash your hands and then put on the gloves. All right, is this a safe place to wash hands? Yes or no? And this is difficult to see. It says it's yes. Excuse me. It says no because that this is a 3-compartment sink, and it's hard to see that from that photo. But you should be washing your hands only in a designated hand washing sink. Now, if you work in a kitchen, yes, the kitchen should have a hand washing station that is only used for hand washing. So in this case here, would you be emptying a bucket of water in there? No. And you know, dirty water shouldn't be dumped into the hand washing sink. You don't want to put dirty water. You don't want to prep food in the sink. You don't want to wash tools. It's solely for washing your hands. And again, here in this photo, it says, is this a safe practice? Why not? Well, that's not a safe practice. You can't get to the safely get to the hand washing station, And some people might say, oh, I can't get over there. It's all blocked. I can't wash my hands. And so you want to make sure that it's always kept clear and has easy access to the hand washing station. So again, never stack food or equipment or supplies in front of them. And so a stocked sink, a hand washing station, or hand washing sink, has to have several things. It has to have hot and cold running water, has to have liquid soap, a single-use paper towel or hand dryer, and a garbage container. If in a restroom, in addition to these items, the fifth item would be a sign that says employees must wash their hands before returning to work. And if they're not well stocked, let somebody know. Let the supervisor, let the manager know, oh, we're out of paper towels, or the soap dispenser is empty, that needs to be replaced, so that it makes it easier as, there's no interruption in work. You can go and wash your hands, get it done. Says, what's wrong with this picture? Well, some people find that, if I blow into this glove, it makes it easier to put on, stretches everything out. And that, here again, think about it, you're blowing into it. So here's droplets from your breath going out onto, maybe not only into the glove, but also onto the outside of the glove. And that's what we want to avoid. That's, practicing good personal hygiene is not allowing any body fluids to get onto your hands or into the food. So use gloves correctly. Only use single-use gloves when handling food. The way I look at this, it should be single-use should maybe be in parentheses, because what I think they mean to say here is don't use, sometimes you get rubberized gloves that can be used for washing dishes, but you would use them more than once. And so when you're working with these kinds of gloves with food, you want ones that are going to be disposable. They're used for one task and one task only, and then you would change them. You want to make sure that the gloves fit. If they're too tight, you put your hands through them, you put your fingers through them, they'll break. If they're too loose, they can fall off. You never want to blow into them, like we said. And again, some people think like, oh, if I roll it up at the edges and then put my hand in there and then slide it down, sounds good, don't do it. Again, you're contaminating the outside of the glove. What's wrong with this picture? You never wash the gloves. They're single-use gloves. If they get dirty, change them. Take them off, throw them out, wash your hands, put on a new pair of gloves. Under no circumstances should you wash your hands with your gloves on. All right, so those gloves are going to be reused. And again, wash your hands before putting on new gloves and when starting a new task. Gloves should be changed as soon as they become dirty or torn. And beginning of a new task, before and after handling any food with a known food allergen. So any of those big 8 items that we talked about, milk, eggs, tree nuts, peanuts, fish, shellfish, soy and wheat, you handle them, change your gloves, take the gloves off, wash your hands, put on a new pair of gloves. Gloves should be changed after handling raw meat, seafood, or poultry, and before handling ready-to-eat food. Ready-to-eat food is food that is no longer going to be cooked before it's eaten. So things like lettuce, different pieces of fruit, and so on. And gloves should be changed after an interruption, such as taking a phone call. You think about it now with cell phones. People store them in their pockets. They're left in cars on the console. They're in bathrooms. They're all over there. If you were to do a swab of those and finding the bacteria that are on phones, I think you'd be a little surprised. And so anytime you have to leave the area that you are, take a phone call, get sidetracked, wash your hands, and change the gloves. Excuse me. Take the gloves off, use the phone, wash your hands, replace the gloves. So, are these hands safe for handling exposed food? Yes or no? All right, and that's yes. You can see there that the fingernails, they're trimmed, they're clean, short. You want to keep your fingernails short and clean because long fingernails are hard to keep clean. Dirt gets underneath them, and again, dirt is bacteria. Some of them could be pathogens. Again, you put in your hands working with food. And what about nail polish? Having nail polish on, should they be exposed to food? No. And then if you have fingernail polish on, then again they have to be covered. You have to have gloves on over them. Again, pieces could chip, fall into the food. The same with fake fingernails. And so you always want to have single-use gloves on when wearing them. Okay, having a cut or a Band-Aid on your hand. Is this safe? Okay, that's no. And the wound is only covered with a Band-Aid. Now you should have a glove over the Band-Aid. And so you see here, this is the correct way. It's cover a bandage with a finger cot that prevents liquid from leaking out, and then place a single-use glove over the cover. Okay, how about this? In this picture here, what seems to be wrong here? Well, everything seems good, except the gentleman doesn't have a hairnet on. Okay, and so hair covering, you always want to wear a clean hat or other hair covering when repackaging food, working in the clean room, and working in areas used to clean utensils and equipment. Notice it says a clean hat. It's often I've seen people, they come in with their Boston Bruins hat that they've had since the late 90s. It's all frayed and stained and everything, and well, that doesn't really cut it. You want to have a clean hat on. You want to make sure that you have a hair net like in the photo. And then again, if you have beard or mustache, you also have to wear a beard restraint. You want to wear clean clothes whenever you're working with or around food, and remove or throw away disposable aprons when leaving clean rooms or food handling areas. And then again, you'll put a new one on once you come back in. You also want to store your personal belongings away from the food. So any kind of handbags that you have, telephone, keys, keep that away. With jewelry, in food service, there's only one thing that really you can wear when you're jewelry, and that's a single gold band, a single plain band. You want to be careful if you're wearing an engagement ring that has a diamond in it. That diamond could come loose, could come into the food. Somebody could eat it. You also want to make sure you don't have any watches, medical bracelets, including bracelets, including medical bracelets, which when I first started teaching food safety, I found that that was a surprise to me. I would think that if somebody had a medical issue, they would be able to keep theirs on. No, there's a chance that could come off into the food, or it could be containing a lot of bacteria. It's on your body. You'd be sweat. There's a lot of dirt, grime can get lodged onto those, and then again, it makes its way into the food. And so it's what you wear. Which practices are unsafe? Right? Wearing a dirty shirt, wearing nail polish without wearing gloves, wearing a baseball cap while packaging food, wearing a watch. And you see here A, B, and D are wearing a baseball cap is good as long as it's clean. You don't want anything that's filthy, stained, or frayed, and then that would be considered unsafe as well. How about this? removing a disposable apron and putting it back on when returning to the clean room, or wearing a bandage on your finger under your gloves. All right, I hit the button too soon. Cleaning and sanitizing food scoops without wearing a hat or other food covering, and wearing the same pants several days in a row until they get dirty. Yep, that's not safe. That's an unsafe practice. And again, in this picture here, it shows you the gentleman actually drinking in the food prep area. And you know, there should be no, you shouldn't be drinking or eating in a food handling area. They should be in a separate area, in a break room or so, outside of where food is being prepared. Again, you don't want to be drinking, smoking, chewing tobacco, chewing gum. Never do these things in these areas, in the food handling areas, or even in food storage areas. Again, here at the Vermont Food Bank, if we have to, you know, we work in the office, but if we're going to go through the warehouse where the food is stored, we're not going to be eating cookies or having a sandwich or even drinking coffee in that area. You know, we keep all food and beverages out, and we only do them in designated areas. Now, what about being sick? You know, you go to work. You know, and there's a couple of things that are red flags that you don't want to be around food while you're sick, and we're going to go through a few of those. You know, you want to tell your supervisor if you've been diagnosed with a foodborne illness. You know, and so these are some of the symptoms that you want to let your supervisor know that you have. So vomiting, diarrhea, jaundice, is a yellowing of the skin or eyes. That's usually a sign of hepatitis A, or a sore throat with a fever. These can be symptoms of foodborne illnesses, and if you have that in you, a foodborne illness, you can transfer that to the food that you're working with and make a lot more people sick. So it's important that you not be around food while you are doing that. So again, these are some of the symptoms. Which one should be reported to a director or supervisor? Well, yep, vomiting would be one, jaundice, sore throat with fever, being very tired, diarrhea or headache. And you'll see that the only two there that you wouldn't have to tell is being very tired. I mean, if I had to tell my supervisor every time I was very tired, she wouldn't want to hear about it. Or the same with a headache. However, these other symptoms, vomiting, jaundice, sore throat with fever, and diarrhea, you might be told that you need to leave the area. Okay, now we're going to talk about receiving and storing food safely. And so we're going to talk about, again, controlling the time and temperature when you do receive food, and inspecting the food when you receive it to make sure that it's safe, and then storing the food safely. So this here, what's important about this temperature range, 41 degrees to 135 degrees? Well, this is called the temperature danger zone. This is when bacteria can start to grow. Now, if you have a refrigerator, you want to make sure that that refrigerator the temperature is at 41 degrees or below, and usually to 32. At 32 degrees, things will start to freeze, so that might not be optimal. So, but you don't want your refrigerator to be above 41 degrees, because now it's in the temperature danger zone, and now these pathogens are starting to grow rapidly. And then once you get above 135 degrees, now you're starting to cook that food. And so now that some of those pathogens will start to die off. But in that range, the bacteria and pathogens, it's the perfect temperature for their growth. You know, in ServSafe, for the ServSafe certification, they also talk about another range between 75 degrees and 125 degrees. So even within this temperature danger zone is another zone where the bacteria grows exponentially. But we're not going to have to cover that here. But just to know that that's, you know, in that area there. And so 41 to 135 degrees, that's the temperature danger zone. And we want to control that. So any kind of food that needs to be refrigerated, it has to be kept at below 41 degrees. And then we're saying here from the pickup from the donor or the food bank to the handoff to the client, we want to keep it in that safe zone that entire time. And that includes the time that it's in the warehouse, on the truck, and at the agency. So on this slide here, it shows a couple of examples of the different types of thermometers that are used in foods in food safety. The infrared thermometer here on the left, that's one that you can just point it at and you'll get the red dot and it will give you the temperature. This gives you the surface temperature. So if I open up a refrigerator and I shoot it at there, it will tell me the surface of that container of milk. It doesn't give me the ambient temperature of the entire refrigerator. The middle one there is called the thermocouple. These are used extensively in kitchens. And it has different kinds of probe ends on them. That particular probe there is called a probe, and it just the tip of it has to be inserted into the food in order to get a temperature reading. With a thermocouple, you can get different kinds of attachments. One would be for an immersion thermometer that can be used in a pot of soup. You can get one that does air thermometer, so you can tell the temperature of a room. You could put it inside of hold it inside of an oven. It'll give you the temperature in the oven. Another one would give you a surface. It would have like a little flat disc at the bottom, so if you were working with a grill, you could know the temperature of the grill by putting that disc on there, and it would give you a temperature reading of the grill. And then the last one here is also widely used by chefs and cooks. It's called a bimetallic stem thermometer. These are usually, you'll see them in their coat pocket, in the chef's coat pocket. And these are good. A couple of things about these is that usually they have to be inserted like almost an inch into the food. So it's not good for small, thin cuts of meat and stuff. But if you had a chicken breast, you could stick that in there. You can get the temperature. With the bimetallic stem thermometer, they have to be calibrated on a regular basis, and we'll get to that. So here are some of the characteristics of the infrared thermometers. You get the reading out instantly. And you prevent cross-contamination. You're not touching one item, taking the temperature, and then touching another item and going that way. So, there's no cross-contamination. But again, it only measures the surface temperature. That wouldn't be good for if you were cooking a chicken breast and wanted to know the internal temperature, because that's the important part that you want to know when cooking chicken breast. It would only tell you what the outside layer is. What are some of the characteristics? Let's see here. They don't need to be inserted deep into the food. Like I said, just the tip. It displays the temperature quickly. And like I said, it has other probes, that can check for liquids, air temperature, and the equipment, that being the little disc there for checking the surface temperature of a grill. And some of the bimetallic stem thermometers. And they say bimetallic. So what happens is inside of the stem is two metals, and they determine the temperature by how those metals react with each other. That will move the dial. And so they must be inserted from the tip of the thermometer to a stem to the dimple, which is about, I don't know, maybe it's about 3/4 of an inch or so. And they require at least 15 seconds before you want it to you get that final reading. And these have to be calibrated. So if you would usually want to calibrate them at the beginning of a shift, if you happen to drop them, is another time that you would we'd need to recalibrate it. And now we're going to talk about how they do that. And so to recalibrate or calibrate a bimetallic stem thermometer. You want to fill up a container with crushed ice and tap water and stir it, mix it well. Now, you want to make sure, they call that a slurry. And so that's going to be at 32 degrees, with this ice and this ice water. And so you want to put the thermometer with the stem and the probe into the ice water, and you want to hold it there for 30 seconds to see where the temperature is at. And then, once you've held it for 30 seconds, now you're going to, there's a nut underneath the dial, underneath the face of the thermometer. And that's the calibration nut. Now you want to get in there, hold that nut, and turn the dial until the arrow points to 32 degrees. And now it's calibrated. So now it says here, you could use I think it says about using a wrench with many of these. Let me go back a couple of slides here. If you notice on the where the clip is, at the very end of the case, the holder, if you go in, there's like it's hard to see in this photo, but there's like a little hole in there. And what you would do is you could put the stem of the thermometer through that hole, and that hole it's like a little wrench, and it'll hold on to that calibrating nut. So if you hold it that way, and then hold the tip into the water, wait 30 seconds, and now you could just turn that wrench until you get it to 32 degrees after 30 seconds. And again, how long should you wait? 30 seconds. And what temperature should the thermometer be adjusted to after placing it in the ice water? 32 degrees, or 0 degrees centigrade, or Celsius. So what should you look for when you're inspecting a delivery vehicle before unloading it? You just want to look at the overall condition of the vehicle. Make sure that there's no, holes in it, or there's no leaks. Maybe they were driving in the rain. You'll notice, oh man, water came in. Well, that's not good. Of course, any signs of pests. Here cockroaches, or in addition to insects, also rodents. Who knows where they came from? But if there are rodents in there, he's like, no, I don't want this stuff. I don't want, close the truck up. Please take it away. And then you want to look at the condition of the product. Make sure that everything is sealed. Going back, let me go back a couple here, just a second. Make sure that things are sealed or on the pallet correctly. It looks like nothing is damaged. And then also here, the presence of objectionable product. And the example that they say is anything homemade product. If there was some homemade product in the truck with some of this other material that's being transported, then you should reject the whole load. Because again, we don't know. This is home canned stuff. And when you think about canning food, yes, it's good if you're going to have it at home, you've canned it, you know the conditions they've been kept in. If you want to have some, give some to your friends, but this is just at home. But now we're talking about serving food to the public. And so these cans, home canned foods, we don't know the origin, we don't know where the food came from, we don't know if there are any allergens in it. So many different things that can go wrong there. And so you want to reject the load that has any homemade products. And then so many trucks, you want to make sure that when they pull up that the door is locked and that they have seals in there. One of the things in the longer class, in the ServSafe certification course, is that they go into detail about this, about food defense. You don't think about it here in Vermont, but some of the trucks that come to the Foodbank come from as far away as Texas and California, and we want to make sure that nowhere along the way did somebody get into that truck and purposefully contaminate the product. And so the lock and those seals, they should be all intact when they arrive at our loading dock. You also want to check the temperature. If If food is to be refrigerated, it needs to be below 41 degrees. And if it's not, it should be between 50 and 70 degrees. That's not in here, I noticed in this course, but I just know that from experience. But you want to make sure that it's at the correct temperature. And then you can check it, with one of those infrared thermometers, finding the surface temperature. You want to reject the food delivery if the delivery vehicle or delivery containers do not meet acceptable standards, contain pests, or are excessively dirty. In this picture here, you can see that the box on that pallet, it looks like a rodent had clawed and chewed its way into it. Some of the food is on the floor. That's a big red flag. You'd want to probably reject the entire load. And so here's what any food that has been received at these temperatures, you want to reject them. Refrigerated food, let's reject any food that has not been received at these temperatures. So refrigerated food, it needs to be at 41 degrees or lower. Frozen food, it should be frozen solid, which we recommend at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 18 Celsius or lower. Cut produce is at 41 degrees or lower. And for whole produce here, it says dry storage temperatures. For more information, see Feeding America's Produce Handling Guidelines. Unfortunately, I don't have that at my hands today. But you'll see, when you go into a supermarket, you'll see that they'll store watermelon, whole watermelons. They'll put them in a Gaylord, those large boxes. They might even be outside the supermarket or just on a pallet, at an end cap and not refrigerated. However, if it's been cut, well, now that has to be stored at 41 degrees or lower. Okay, so is the delivery safe? Identify each situation that might be unsafe. The door lock on the delivery truck is broken. Mice are spotted inside a food delivery truck. A delivery truck is transporting food at 38 degrees, and a case of homemade jelly is found inside a delivery truck. Yes, so A, B, and D are unsafe. The delivery truck is transporting food at 38 degrees. Yep, that's okay. That's safe. Any questions thus far? Anybody have any questions? Okay, we'll continue on. Okay, here's the thing. Identify each item that was not received at the correct temperature. Frozen meat received at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, no, frozen meat has to be stored at least 0. Bags of cut lettuce received at 50 degrees. No, we don't know how long they've been at 50 degrees. And remember, bacteria starts growing once the temperature gets above 41 degrees. If that truck has been coming from California and it's been 50 degrees, and it had plenty of time to have plenty of bacteria grow and can cause foodborne illnesses. Bags of cut melons received at 41 degrees. No, that's not good. And milk again received at 50 degrees. Now you can see here that all 5 of these situations would be are not received at the correct temperature and should be rejected. All right, let's take a look at this one here. This looks like cultured sour cream. And it says here it's 45 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 degrees Celsius. Is this stored correctly? No. We want to have that. It's too high. It should be at 41 degrees or lower. Again, refrigerated food should be at 41 degrees or lower, and that includes fresh cut produce. What about this food? Has this been stored correctly? Yes or no? Hard to say from this picture what we're looking at. Let's see, it says yes. It says the meat is frozen. You could see there in the beginning, in the front there. All right, so again, general storage guidelines, keep frozen food frozen solid. Again, the recommended temperature is 0 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 18 degrees Celsius or lower. We say lower, just a little word of caution. Between 0 and minus 10 is optimal. Once you start getting below minus 10, then you're diminishing the time that the frozen product will be actually good. Because once you can get freezer burn, and freezer burn happens, it takes months for things to get freezer burn, but the lower the temperature is, then the sooner it can become freezer burn. So between 0 and minus 10 is good, but here, for this purpose of this class, they're just saying that to store it at 0 or below. Okay, it says here, has the food been stored correctly? And I had to really look, okay, what could be the problem here? And yes, this food is correctly. Food is stored in a designated food storage area. You'll notice that everything is up off the ground, off the floor. We'll go into a little bit more of that. All right, so store food only in designated food areas. And if you look here, is this stored correctly? Well, no, because again, it's in a box sitting on the floor. Again, this can allow rodents and insects to get into it. If anything was to leak on the floor, it'd be absorbed by the box. Now it's going to be contaminating the food that's in it. And there's no circulation, air circulation underneath it. And so here it says, store food at least 6 inches off the floor. And you'll see there. If you ever come to the food bank and you see everything will be up off of the floor throughout the entire warehouse. Never will anything be sitting on the floor, even for a short period of time. You also want to, it says here, has this food been stored correctly? And the answer is no. Again, you want to have a space between the wall and the box. Again, allow air circulate, and it has runs the risk of any kind of moisture or condensation that might come in and then getting onto the box and then over time become moldy. Okay, so store food away from the walls. Wait a second, let me go back here. What's this one? General, yes, store food away from the walls. Okay. How about this food here? Is this stored correctly? And yes, it is. And again, it's because the ready-to-eat food is stored above the raw food. Now, if any of the juices from any of that produce was to get onto the meat, it's not as bad as the other way around because the meat's going to be cooked. And so anything that happened to spill on it will be, it'll have the opportunity to be killed off. However, not so much the opposite way. If the blood or juices from meat or especially poultry was to get on ready-to-eat food and then you eat it, well, you're going to get sick from that, that's for sure. Yep, and you shouldn't store them on the same pallet as well. Has this food been stored correctly? And the answer is yes. And the food is stored in containers made for food. Okay, so it says food should be labeled with a receiving date, and this is so that we can always rotate the food. And we'll go into a little bit more of that. And the receiving date should be placed on individual containers or cases and on pallet tags, as you see here. It has the date received there on the bottom. So 7/5/2014 is the receiving date. The food expires on April 5th, 2019. And so here you'll see the dates, dates are used. Sometimes they're used for tracking and recall. When you see on the milk there, it says sell by 3/21/14. So, sometimes if there's a food recall, they'll send out and say, this milk has been recalled for one purpose or another. It has a sell by date of 3/21/14. So that's one way of tracking that. It also tells the store how long to display the product for sale. So, you know, after 3/21/14, they will take that off the shelf. And then date by which the product should be eaten for best flavor or quality. And then the last date recommended for the product while at peak quality. And so let me just see something here. Sell by going back one. This tells the store how long to display the product for sale. So so yes, in this case here, well, I guess I got ahead of myself here. So yes, it can be used for tracking, but this tells the store, okay, you got to take it off the shelves at this point. Now, if you had purchased this, let's say on 3/21, it's still good for several days after that, but that's the last day that the store should sell it. And then the sell by date's a quality date, tells the store how long to display the product. The product is still safe to eat past this date. Now, sometimes you'll see these numbers on cans, particularly sometimes on boxed items. And then these are used for, let's see what it say here. This is used for tracking and recalls. You know, this would be like the lot load. Sometimes it'll have the Julian calendar, and it'll be the date that this can was manufactured, and so it'll have this code on it. And so if there's a recall, they will say, you know, look for the ones that have this code on there. And again, it's not an expiration date. So when you look at that, don't think, oh, that's no longer any good. What's the purpose of this date? When you see a use by date, you know, and you see here has a date, what's that one used for? And that's the last date recommended for the product while at peak quality. So, you know, if you're using this by, you know, on July 24th, it's probably, you know, it's past its peak. And the further away from that you get, the worse off it is. So that's telling you that's the last date that the product is at the peak quality. Okay. So now you see here, this on this pint of ice cream on the best, it says Best Buy, August 19th, 2014. And what is the purpose of this one? And this is the date which the product should be eaten for the best flavor or quality. Again, if you were to eat that after that time, it would be still good. You're not going to get sick from it. It's just that this is what the manufacturer says. Hey, once it gets beyond there, it starts to break down. It doesn't taste like we would like it to taste. So you want to eat it, you know, by that date. And let's see here. Okay, shelf life for refrigerated food and storage. If food has a sell-by date or no date at all, follow Feeding America guidelines, which is freeze the food and distribute the food. Let me go back. Freezing food will keep it safe for long periods of time. Here in food banking, you know, we get frozen meat from different donors, the large supermarkets here in Vermont, Shaw's, Hannaford's, Price Chopper. So on or before the sell-by date, they freeze it, and the food bank can get that food. And if we keep it frozen, it's good for up to about 6 months. We can keep it in that frozen state, and then people want to thaw it and cook it, but not much beyond that. After 6 months, good chance it's going to get freezer burn. And again, it says here, the quality will suffer if frozen food is stored too long. Handling recalled food. Okay, so sure, I handle, one of my other duties is I get food recalls from around the country are emailed to me through Feeding America, and they get them through the FDA and the USDA. And then I pass them on to network partners, you know, letting them know, hey, please check your inventory and dispose of the following recalled item. And so one of the things you want to do is to immediately segregate that item and make sure that it is not distributed any further. And then I'll also have instructions on how to dispose of it. But here you'll see here, you know, it has a red tag on there. It says hold recall. Okay, now rotating food. So there's two different types of rotation. One's called the FIFO, which is the first expired, first out method. And it has a use by or expiration date. So you want to check that date, and then you want to store that food that will expire first in front of items that will expire later. And so use the food that's stored in front first. Of course, when I go shopping, I always look, if it has meat, I look to the back, see what just came out, because that's going to last a little bit longer. But when you're trying to do this, and I think here's a good example of this, especially when you're handling produce. Let's say if one day you got in a load of cabbage, and that load of cabbage, it looks like it's in pretty good condition. Everything is green and all, and it looks like it was just picked. And then maybe the next day you get some more cabbage in, and you notice that cabbage actually is starting to brown around the edges. It's still good, but you could see that it's not as good as the cabbage that you got the day before. Well, that's a good example of the first expired, first out. You want to take that cabbage that has some of the brown edges and make sure that gets distributed before the stuff that's pristine and looks like it just came out of the ground. The other one is FIFO, and that's the first in, first out. So you want to check on the delivery date and store food with the earliest delivery date in front of food with later delivery dates. And so again, you want to use the food that stored, use food stored in front first. And so you can see here, between these two pictures, the date is 2014, which storage shelf has cans that are stored correctly. And you can see that's B, because they have the earliest ones are that to go. And so look at these. Which of these cans should be discarded? Well, both of them should be. Anytime that there's a damage around the ring, or if a can is dented so much that it can't be stackable, you couldn't put another can on top of that. That should be discarded. So you want to discard cans that have severe dents in the seams, or crushed cans that are not stackable. Which of these should be discarded? Well, that's easy. That's A. We don't know what's in there. If it's missing a label, or it's the label is unreadable due to stains or tears, and it has no code dates on it, that's something you want to throw away. Here at the food bank, we put these things aside for pig farmers to come. These foods might not be fit for human consumption, but yet pig farmers can feed this to their animals. Again, here you look at on B. Here it has rust on the top, and on A you can see that the top of the can is starting to swell. Well, both of those should be discarded. If it has swollen or bulging ends, that means it might have had a dent. There might be an opening in there, but now bacteria is starting to grow, and that's what's causing it to bulge. And then rust that cannot be wiped off. If somebody was to open this can, that rust is going to get in the food. Well, you don't want to be eating rust, so that's something, again, you want to make sure that you discard. What about this can here? Does this need to be discarded? Obviously, it has a hole in it. Some of the product is leaking out. Visible signs of leaking, you could tell there by the stained labels. All right, here's a jar here. Again, the lid on this jar has been compromised and has the dented lid, so yes, that should be thrown out. Again, that means that air could have gotten in there, bacteria is starting to grow. So again, if it has a rusted lid, dented or swollen lids, out they go. You know, there's a great thing that we talk about. When in doubt, throw it out. Here's a milk container. It looks like the seal has been broken, and yep, the lid is loose. With containers or jars like this, if it has a loose lid, if the button in the lid is raised, or a broken seal, or a missing inner seal, or if it had an inner seal. Now, if this milk, if you took that cap off and there was an inner seal and that was still intact and not broken, then yes, that can be continued to be used. Okay, and what's wrong with this jar? Looks great. Oh, there's missing the label. There's no readable label, no code dates on it. Again, that's a danger. We don't know if that's from last week or last decade. So that's something that you don't want to use. In here, you can see it looks like stuff has started to spill out of that jar. Yep, so there's a sign of leakage. And if stuff can get out, it means air could get in, and that's something you don't need. Now here you can look at, and you can see that there's mold inside with this jelly, or jam there. And, especially if there's mold in something like this, then you definitely want to throw it out, because there's so much sugar in there that it would keep it, well, if there's mold in it, you don't want to eat it. It shouldn't be in there. We'll just leave it at that. Make it simple. And, signs of dirt or mold under the lid. Yeah, this is, I don't think anybody would want to make a sandwich with this mayonnaise in here. It's obviously discolored, and you don't want to be using stuff that's discolored or has an unusual appearance or separation. All right, so dry food. You're looking for defects in the packaging here. And some dry food is packaged in a single package, and others are double packaged with the food contained in an inner package. And so you want to look at them, look for signs of leak, or where water may have spilled on them. It says, what's wrong with this dry food package? It's unlabeled. And discard any commercial packaged dry food with these problems. It's unlabeled and not labeled correctly, unreadable label, or no code dates. And here you can see this is obvious. Again, something has gnawed into this. It looks like that might be pancake mix. And yep, there's gnaw marks. And so it shows signs of pests. And so you don't want that. Again, because pets carry pathogens that can lead to a foodborne illness. Again, this is food here. The inner package is damaged. It's open. It's been exposed. That would be something that you'd want to discard. Okay. Here's just. Looks like rice here, and it's punctured or cut and the packaging. And all right. And so again, looking at this one now, these strawberries contain mold on them. I'm always amazed when I'm in a supermarket and you can see they have the mold on it. You don't want to select that. And if you have it at home and then it starts to get moldy, again, you don't want to use that product anyway. Again, it could even start to smell bad. But don't always rely on smell to determine if something is good or not. But these apples here, it looks like they have severe bruises. The skin's not in contact, and bruising is a way for pathogens to get inside the produce. Again, this is the skin of the tomato is split, and it's not intact, and it provides a way for pathogens to get inside the produce. Okay, so we're looking here. What's wrong with this picture? The person there is using an infrared thermometer, and the reading is 45 degrees. Well, that's too high. That looks like it's a bag of cut produce, and that's too warm for, it should be at 41 degrees or lower. Again, it doesn't say no code dates. You can't see that here, though. All right, so what's wrong with this picture? And this isn't food grade packaging. That's a garbage bag. And so you want to discard products with these produce with these problems. You know, signs, or even with signs of insects or bodies or insect eggs. You know, that would be discarded as well. Medications with these problems, broken tamper-resistant seals or damaged packaging, you'd want to discard that. Any medication has expired, you want to discard that, or past the use-by date. You also want to reject medicines that the label is not intact or readable, and the label does not include the necessary information, like the common name of the drug, a list of the ingredients, the quantity of contents, instructions for correct use, recommended dose, and storing requirements. So if those aren't included, you should throw that out. Now, which of these should be rejected? And so you see the first one there is looks like it's, well, all three do. And they'll tell you why. The broken seal is one on A, B is expired, and C has an unreadable label. And so all three of those items, they would be discarded. All right, so now a clean room. And there's strict conditions for repackaging food. You know, many times, you know, we might get a donation of cereal that comes in very large boxes, you know, of, 20 pounds or more of cereal. And sometimes we have to break them down into small packages to be able to give to families at food shelves. And so this needs to be done, you know, in a clean room, and it's a designated clean room. It's a separating closed room dedicated to bulk repackaging. And it must be designed to the highest standards of sanitation. And it must prevent any environmental contaminants as possible. And so interior surfaces must be durable and easy to clean. It must be built to commercial food service construction standards. It must meet local health regulations. TCS food, that means food that is time and temperature controlled for safety, should only be repackaged in a clean room that can maintain a temperature of 55 degrees or lower. So that's food that's generally refrigerated. If you're going to be repackaging it, that room has to be 55 degrees or lower. What's wrong with this photo? Well, this gentleman is not wearing a hat. And again, that means air can get into the food that he is working with. In this one, everything looks clean. However, what they are doing is they are repackaging more than one item at a time. And again, the problem with this is that, yes, something could get, from one package to the other. Well, if you're trying to repackage two things at once in the same room, and then who knows, maybe one of those is an allergen, and it gets into something that's not an allergen, and somebody that has an allergy to that could consume it. So therein lies the problem. So you just want to make sure that you're only packaging one item at a time. And, excuse me, this picture here, well, I was looking at this, what's wrong with this? And if you look at these ice scoops here, food scoops, that they're being stored incorrectly, And going back here, so store clean and sanitized equipment so that it doesn't become contaminated. And you always want to clean and sanitize the room before repacking it, and then you want to clean and sanitize the equipment used to repack the food, both before and after the use. You might say, oh, it was clean last night when we came in here and sanitized. Nope, if you're going to use it now, clean and sanitize it again before repackaging food. And then, of course, you want to change if you're doing a new product or products that contain allergens. You want to, again, clean and sanitize the repack room. And so, it says here, what's missing from this label on repackaged food item? Well, if you look here first, sure, it has the name and how much quantity is in there. It has a list of the major food allergens, but also you want to have the name and address of the manufacturer and packer, a list of the ingredients and sub-ingredients in descending weight order. So in this one, the most used item in the on this product is the whole grain oats, and then the last one is nutmeg. So the nutmeg is the lightest of them all, and you always want to clean out the inside of the vehicle at least once a week or as often as necessary. Make sure that vehicles are pest-free, and never deliver food in vehicles used to haul garbage. Again, that sometimes can be difficult, even at home. I'm sure if you take food to, garbage to a dump, and then you go food shopping. Well, that's okay for your family, but now if you're serving this food to others, you want to make sure that they're separate vehicles. Preparing delivery vehicles to protect food from contamination. Okay. Lock and seal delivery vehicles when they are not being loaded or unloaded. Prepare delivery vehicles to keep food at safe temperatures. Again, it's 41 degrees or lower. Check the readout on the truck's recording device. Leave refrigeration units on and vehicle doors closed during inactivity. And it's also good practice to pre-cool the refrigerated trucks prior to loading. Because by the time you load a truck and then turn the refrigerating unit on, it would take some time. So it's always best to do that ahead of time. So what's wrong with this delivery? Well, it's left outside. Food should not be left outside and unsupervised. Here, again, food, you don't want food left out by the garbage. And do not put food by the garbage containers. This is food, it looks like it's left at room temperature. And you don't want to leave refrigerated or frozen food at room temperature. Here again, if you look closely here, you see that there are chemicals, that there's bleach stored above soup. Even if it's canned soup, doesn't matter. You don't want to have. You want to make sure that chemicals are stored separate from food. Here it says use boxes that are sturdy, clean, and dry, and keep shelf-stable food clean and dry in a clean storage area. This picture here, this picture could actually be the Vermont Foodbank, the way that this warehouse looks right here. Again, you want to preparing food for transport. Keep food in a pest-free area. Keep meat, poultry, and seafood separate from each other and away from other food. So you can see that there's definitely a separation there of those two pallets. And so if you look here, what's wrong with this? Again, that's meat stored above produce there on the melons, over ready-to-eat food. Again, if any of that food was to drop on there, somebody might not wash the melon as well as they should, and then they cut into it, and now whatever on the outside of the melon is now also on the inside, the piece that will be eaten. And so raw food, is meat, seafood, poultry, and shell eggs. Here again, we talked about allergens, and milk is an allergen. And so here we have allergens being stored over food, other products. Here's a chemical, obviously chemical and a non-chemical on the same pallet. That's something that you want to avoid as well. Okay, let's see here. Going back here, keep refrigerated food when you're transporting it, 41 degrees or lower during transport. Keep frozen food temperatures, that will keep it frozen. Keep food cold in unrefrigerated vehicles. So we have these thermal blankets that do very well. I think you could almost wrap yourself in a thermal blanket and stay outside in the middle of the winter, and you would stay warm. But what it does is it keeps your body heat in. But here with this, you have cold food. You put this thermal blanket on it. It'll keep the coldness in there, and place it in with coolers or with ice packs. You want to make sure that when you're loading a refrigerator or frozen food, that it has the opportunity that air can circulate around it, and use pallet slip sheets. And now here's an important thing as well, is that if you are transporting unrefrigerated vehicles, then you should limit that time to 30 minutes or less. So if you have to drive an hour, well, that's not good. It needs to be refrigerated. So 30 minutes or less, unrefrigerated vehicles. Keep that in mind. And you want to check the temperature of the refrigerated food when it has reached its destination, and document the temperatures. All right, now we've come to the last chapter. This is cleaning and sanitizing. It's last but not least, very important. And we're going to talk about sanitizing and handling garbage. Okay, so cleaning is removing dirt and other food and dirt from a surface. Sanitizing, as I said earlier, reduces pathogens on a surface to safe levels. Does it need to be cleaned or sanitized? Does a floor need to be sanitized? No, because remember, we talked about only surfaces that are coming in contact with food need to be sanitized, cleaned and sanitized. However, places like the floor would only need to be cleaned. All surfaces must be cleaned and rinsed: walls and floors, storage shelves, garbage containers. Any surface that touches food must be cleaned and sanitized. Plastic food bins, labels, scales, prep tables, sorting tables, scoops, and scraping. The first stage is always scrape and remove the food from the surface. Wash the surface, rinse the surface, sanitize the surface, and then allow it to air dry. You don't want to go then with a clean rag or paper towels or going over to dry it. Allow it to air dry. Otherwise, you can recontaminate it. And so put the steps for cleaning and sanitizing in the right order by placing the number of each step in the place provided. So in this one here, remember, we want to scrape or remove the food from the surface, wash the surface, rinse the surface, sanitize the surface, and allow the surface to air dry. So it's 1, 2, 3 is rinse, 4 is sanitize it, and C is 5, allow it to air dry. When cleaning equipment, the very first thing you want to do is to unplug the equipment. This is especially, if you're using a meat slicer. You certainly don't want to be cleaning it, while it's still plugged in. Something could go horribly wrong there. And so, whatever it is, always unplug the equipment first, and then take off the removable parts. And then you got to wash, rinse, and sanitize the parts by hand. All right, so sometimes we have stationary equipment. Again, you want to scrape and remove the food from the equipment surface, Wash, rinse, and sanitize the equipment surfaces and let the surfaces air dry. And then you're going to put the equipment back together. When to clean and sanitize? Before and after use, before repackaging food, and when changing to a new product or between allergens. So here on the scale, perhaps they were weighing fish, and now they are going to be weighing lettuce or chopped produce. So you want to make sure that that's clean and sanitized. Also, if you've been doing something for 4 hours straight, if you've been, I don't know, cutting chicken breasts for 4 hours straight, well then after that 4 hours, again, then you want to go and wash, rinse, sanitize, air dry that area before continuing again. Okay, when to clean and sanitize? Which item must be clean and sanitized? Jorge has used the same scoop to portion cereal for an hour. Probably not. Bob drops the scoop on the floor while using it. Yep, now it's on the floor. Now it has to be washed, rinsed, and sanitized. Shelley finished repackaging produce on a prep table, and now we'll use it to repack cereal. Yep, you're changing tasks now. So in between there, you want to wash, rinse, and sanitize. And Maria is about to start scooping bulk rice into smaller bags. Yes, you want to do that before and after. So the only one that isn't checked is A. All right, make sure that the water is the correct temperature. This is, and if you have a sanitizing solution that will tell you the temperature, what the temperature of the water should be. And doing that, you want to make sure that you use the correct amount of sanitizer. And they have these litmus tests that you can find out. You dip the paper into the sanitizing solution in the water, and then you check to make sure that it's in the correct range. You may either need to add more sanitizer or sometimes more water, depending, to keep it at the proper strength. And so leave items being sanitized in contact with the sanitizer for the correct amount of time. And this will be on the label. This is when you're, whenever you're using a sanitizing solution, it will have instructions on there about how much to dilute it with, and then how long that sanitizer needs to be in contact with the surface. And of course, you always want to air dry any surface that's been sanitized. And in a 3-compartment sink, well, the first one is used for washing, so that needs to be at least 110 degrees, and that's usually what most hot waters are in commercial kitchens. Sometimes in homes you'd want to check that. Then you add the detergent. Remember, you add the detergent to the water, not the other way around. The second sink, now there's 2 ways of rinsing. Some would be rinse it in just plain hot water, and others, they'll just leave that sink unfilled and use a sprayer. So after the pans and dishes have been washed, now you'd spray them, or you can submerge them to rinse them. In the 3rd compartment is, again, you're going to fill that up with water, add the correct amount of sanitizer, and check the sanitizer strength with a test kit. So before you start washing, let's see here, it says here. All right, so using a 3-compartment sink, you want to rinse, scrape, or soak the items before washing them. Now, when it says rinse, it's not talking about the middle sink. This is like rinsing, something that has gravy on it. You want to rinse it off before putting it into wash water, and then you want to wash it in the sink with the detergent. You want to use a brush, cloth, or nylon scrub to loosen the dirt, and you change the water when the suds are gone, or the water is dirty, or you have a whole sink full of food bits. Well, that's dirty, but that's one of the ways you know that, yep, it's time to change that water. Rinse the items in the second sink. You could either dip them or spray rinse them and remove any food or detergent, and change the water. If you happen to be dipping them, sometimes you'll get more suds on there. When you find that you're building up suds, that's when you want to change that sink to the middle sink, the rinsing one. Now, in sanitizing, in the third one, what you want to do is you have to make sure that the once everything is set, you have the correct temperature, the correct amount of sanitizer in there. But then it will tell you how long something has to be submerged in order to be sanitized. And so once you sanitize it, you don't want to rinse it afterwards, but you do want to stack it so that it's upside down and that it drains. Now, had that scoop been right side up, some of the sanitizer and the water would still be on there, and it wouldn't be able to drain properly. And this is what you want. And again, you don't want to wipe it dry. Just turn it upside down, let it air dry. And so, what is the first thing you should do when setting up a 3-compartment sink? Well, that would be D, clean and sanitize the sinks. With cleaning and sanitizing before we even start. All right, put these steps in order for cleaning and sanitizing items in a 3-compartment sink. And we'll look here. First one, you want to rinse or scrape any food particles off it and soak the items. Then we're going to wash them. Rinse the items in the middle sink, either dipping them or rinsing them with the sprayer. Put them in the sanitizing sink in the third one, and then allow them to air dry, face down so that they can drain. Here, you don't want, garbage, it's being allowed to stack up. And so you want to move garbage as quickly as possible, and be careful not to contaminate food or surfaces when taking the garbage out, because that really defeats the purpose. And it says here, how is this garbage being handled safely? And the container is being cleaned, and the inside and outside. And again, it looks like it's not in a food storage area. Handling garbage in the dumpster. The lid is closed. You want to make sure the lid is closed. Other things, the drainage plug is kept in place. And when you have garbage cans on the inside and they're not being used, they should be covered. Again, that would attract flies. You don't want anything spilling out. Okay, which are signs of pests here? Well, all three. Here we see pet droppings there on the left. Actually looks like rat droppings. There's some nests here, and this one here is damaged from something gnawing into that package. All right, so now we finished it. Finish this. Now, what I'd like to do is, we have a couple more minutes left. I'd like to, if you take your book, and we're going to turn to the quiz at the back here. There's 30 questions, and we're going to go over this together. I'm not going to have you take the time and do each one, but we'll go over these. I'd like you to correct, mark the correct answers so that you could use this as a reference guide going forward. So here, let's look on page T1. It says, circle the best answer for each question below. 3 types of hazards that make food unsafe. This is going back to that first one. Remember, we talked about biological, chemical, and physical are the hazards that make food unsafe. Transferring pathogens from the body to food can be prevented by practicing, and I'll go through all of these, cleaning and sanitizing, temperature control, personal hygiene, receiving and storage. So the answer to 2 is personal hygiene. You're preventing it from your body to the food. Number 3, a food allergy occurs when the body has a reaction to, and that is either cleaning chemicals, airborne pathogens, undercooked meat, or certain food items, and that is D. And the certain food items are those big 8 allergens. Which of these items is a common food allergen? sugar, lettuce, tomato, or wheat? And that would be D, wheat. What occurs when food containing an allergen comes in contact with another food? Well, we call that cross-connect, and that's B. Sorry, we went through that one quick. When I looked at this, I first thought, oh, cross-contamination. No, but when we're talking about allergens and other foods, that's the cross-contact. Number 6, one way to keep people with food allergies safe is to A, freeze food before distributing it, B, prevent cross-contact between food items, C, store food with allergens on top of other food, D, wipe off open food that has touched an allergen. And the answer to 6 is B, prevent cross-contact between food items. Number 7, hands and arms should be scrubbed with soap for how many seconds during hand washing? A, 1 to 3, B, 4 to 6, C, 7 to 9, D, 10 to 15. And the answer is D, 10 to 15 seconds. And what activity can be performed at a hand washing sink? A, dumping mop water, B, rinsing food scoops, C, cleaning canned foods, or D, hand washing only. And that is 9. Number 9 is D, washing hands only. Number 10, how should hair be worn when repackaging food? Clipped back with hairpins, tied back with a rubber band, pulled off the face with a headband, or covered with a hat or other covering? And that's the correct answer is D. Eating and drinking when working in food storage areas is a food safety hazard because it could cause choking, offend clients, contaminate hands and food, and lead to time temperature abuse. And that is C, contaminate hands and food. Number 12, what symptoms must be reported to the director or supervisor? Headache, dizziness, diarrhea, or sweating? And the answer to that is C, diarrhea. The temperature danger zone in food temperature range is A, 0 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, B, 32 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, C, 41 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, or 135 to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And the answer is C, 41 to 135 degrees. A delivery truck should be rejected when, the answer to this one here is B, the product contains pests. A bimetallic stem thermometer is being calibrated. After the stem has been submerged in ice water and the indicator has stopped moving, the thermometer must be adjusted to what temperature? 0 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 41 degrees Fahrenheit, or 45 degrees Fahrenheit? And the answer here is B, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Refrigerated food must be stored at temperatures no higher than A, 41 degrees, B, 45 degrees, C, 47 degrees, or D, 49 degrees. The correct answer is A, 41 degrees. How far off the floor must food be stored? 1 inch, 2 inch, 4 inches, or 6 inches? And the correct answer is D, 6 inches. Which storage date is the last date recommended for the product while at peak quality? A, the packaging or manufacturing date, B, the sell-by date, C, the best by or best if used by date, or D, the used by or expiration date? And the answer is D, the used by or expiration date. Number 19, cans should be discarded if they have torn labels that are still readable, shallow dents in the can body, swollen or bulging ends, and rust that can be wiped off. The correct answer is C, swollen or bulging ends. Produce should be discarded when it has A, mold, B, light bruising, C, code dates, or D, intact skin. And that should be A, mold. And number 21, time temperature control for safety food should be repackaged in a clean room that maintains temperature of no higher than A, 55 degrees, B, 65, C, 75, D, 85. The correct answer is A, 55 degrees. And what information must be included on repackaged food labels? A, nutrition value of each ingredient. B, directions for preparation. C, a list of major food allergens. D, calorie count of each serving. The correct answer is C, a list of each major food allergen. Drive times in unrefrigerated delivery vehicles should be kept less than A, 120 minutes, B, 90 minutes, C, 60 minutes, D, 30 minutes. The correct answer is D, 30 minutes. And which practice when transporting food will keep it safe? Keep refrigerated food at 45 degrees or lower. Storing raw food over ready-to-eat food. C, packaging the delivery vehicle tightly so that air cannot circulate around products. And D, covering refrigerated food with thermal blankets. The correct answer is D, covering the refrigerated food with thermal blankets. What's the difference between cleaning and sanitizing? Cleaning removes dirt while sanitizing reduces the number of pathogens to a safe level. The correct answer on number 25 is A. Cleaning removes dirt while sanitizing reduces pathogens to safe levels. What is the correct order for cleaning and sanitizing? Rinse, wash, sanitize, scrape, air dry, A. B, rinse, sanitize, wash, scrape, air dry. C is scrape, rinse, wash, sanitize, air dry. Or D, scrape, wash, rinse, sanitize, air dry. The correct answer is D. I'm going to scrape the food off, wash the item, rinse the item, sanitize it, and then allow it to air dry. Number D, letter D. 27, what surface must be cleaned and sanitized? A refrigerated door, a prep table, a storage shelf, or a garbage container? The correct answer here is the prep table. That's the one that will come in direct contact with the food. So that's B. Number 28, what is a second sink of a three-compartment sink used for? Scraping, washing, rinsing, or sanitizing? The correct answer is C, that's the rinse sink. And where should garbage containers be cleaned? In clean rooms, in three-compartment sinks, in salvage areas, or away from food storage areas? And the correct answer there is D, away from food storage areas. Number 30, the last question. Insects and rodents are a food safety risk because they, A, eat food that is meant for clients, B, carry pathogens that can make people sick, C, scare employees, or D, make a mess with their nests and droppings. The correct answer here is B. They carry pathogens that can make people sick. Okay, this concludes the training. I hope you found this valuable. I hope maybe there was a few things here that you learned that maybe you didn't know before. If you have any questions, anybody have any questions at this time? Anything? Okay, well, listen, I thank you very much, and we will be sending you your certificate of completion of the training. That'll be mailed to you in the mail in the next couple of weeks or so. So listen, I thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and well, just have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.